Now, I know that Game Week 19 has only just started, but there's already plenty to talk about. And in this video, I'm going to go through players to buy and avoid ahead of Game Week 20. Now, as I do with all the buy and avoid videos, I'm going to kick things off by looking at the upcoming clean sheet odds according to 11ify, and we've got this filtered by total. So, we've got Arsenal as number 1, Liverpool number 2, Man City number 3. Now, it's no real surprise to see those three teams top. What I like to do on this feature is look at the teams that are just below that. So in 4th place, we've got Nottingham Forest, who, apart from their fixture in Game Week 21 when they play Liverpool, have got some really decent clean sheet odds coming up. And I think it's definitely fair to say, off the back of, I believe it's 3 clean sheets in a row for them now, in my mind, they are the 3rd best defence in the league behind Arsenal and Liverpool. I know the odds for Man City are higher, but I think that's backed up by more historical data than actual performance this season. Interesting to see Villa and Everton in 5th and 6th. We've got Chelsea up there as well, Newcastle and Crystal Palace. So that's kind of the top half teams to target in terms of clean sheet odds and defences. And yeah, I just have to talk about Forest defence basically. I think there's a real case not only to buy one, but to double up. And for me, my favourite double up of Forest defence would involve Nikola Milenkovic. I think of all of the Forest outfield defenders, he is the best, slightly cheaper than Aina. And of all of the Forest defenders, he is the one that is providing the most goal threat. Got a few attacking returns from the 18 appearances he's made so far. He's not lighting the world up in terms of attacking returns, but I think when you make a comparison between all of the Forest defenders you'd actually want to buy in the game, I think Milenkovic is the number 1. Murillo is cheaper, but he's not really offered much at all in terms of attacking threat. Aina is the most expensive, most popular, but he is also, I know he scored a couple of goals, but the underlying numbers he's put up have not been great, whereas Milenkovic, I think, is a good balance of both. Priced in between the two and has actually produced the most attacking data and attacking returns. And then on top of Milenkovic, I really think Sales is emerging as one of the best keepers in the game. 4.8 million, owned by still 10% of the game, so I think he sort of counts as a differential. And what I like about Sales, I say this in every video when I talk about goalkeepers, he offers a perfect combination of decent clean sheets and saves. So he's making 2.79 saves per 90, which is very close to getting the saves bonus. And also, he's kept a clean sheet in basically half the games that he's played so far. And for Forest, that Liverpool at home fixture is obviously a horrible one, but they kept a clean sheet and won at Anfield in the reverse fixture. Wolves away, who have got an injured Cunha at the moment. Southampton at home after Liverpool, then Bournemouth and Brighton. With the way that Forest are playing, there could be 3 or 4 clean sheets mixed into those 5 fixtures. So yeah, Milenkovic and Sales, my 2 favourite Forest defenders. Now, Munoz was a pretty popular transfer in for Game Week 19, and I think owners can count themselves pretty unlucky. He had a goal shot cleared off the line. Previous game weeks, I think he came close. He's hit the post in recent game weeks as well. I think in the last 3 or 4 game weeks, whenever I've watched the highlights for Crystal Palace game, I've seen Munoz and he probably should have scored. So to not get a return, I think, from Game Week 19 is really unlucky. He was, in my mind, could have kept a clean sheet as well, and also was just on for attacking returns. Chelsea at home in Game Week 20 is a tough fixture, but I would also say you probably have another defender around this price point you could sub him for if you needed to. And also, just with the way that he's been playing from an attacking perspective, I wouldn't rule out his likelihood to still get a return against Chelsea. And then after that, it's Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, and Man United. And Crystal Palace always seem to be Man United's bogey team, so I think they could get a result there. I do think Glasner's turned things around with Palace. They seem to have kicked on. They had a really poor start to the season, but they seem to have adjusted to their new back line involving Chalobah and Lacroix. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. They're not necessarily keeping the clean sheets yet, but they're looking a lot better than they did at the start of the season, and they're scoring goals as well. And Munoz, despite being a defender, he's definitely going to be involved in some goals in the future. And if I bought him, I'd keep him, and I'd still consider him one of the top transfer targets if you're looking to buy a defender. All right, so looking at the upcoming projected goals, I've noticed that the maths there is actually wrong. I think I've summed 19 to 24 rather than 20 to 24. So forgive the total, but it's still ranked in order in terms of top teams for projected goals. We've got Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, Spurs. I would usually expect that to be the kind of top 6. Teams beneath that, you've got Villa and Man United, who again are not, I guess they're not massive surprises to see there. And then just above that, of the best of the rest, I guess, you've got Crystal Palace, Fulham, and Bournemouth. So if I were looking for teams that aren't necessarily obvious to target attackers from, I'd probably say Crystal Palace. And on the subject of Crystal Palace attack, I'm going to do a little comparison here between Eze and Sarr. Now, there was probably, with the Bruno Fernandes suspension, quite a lot of players that were deciding between bringing in Sarr and Eze for Game Week 19. And in terms of actual returns, obviously he scored a goal. Eze came out on top, right? He scored the goal. But looking at the data, Ismaila Sarr, I think, actually had a better game. He put up more XG and more expected assists. So he had 1.03 expected goal involvements in that game. So that suggests he should have got an attacking return. And he played, well, just slightly more minutes, had more touches of the football, more passes. So he's more involved in the game than Eze was, despite obviously playing on the wing. So, you know, if you're an Eze owner, yeah, count yourself happy that you got the attacking return. But if you're on Sarr, I certainly wouldn't be disheartened by the fact that Eze scored and he didn't, if you were deciding between the two players. I think long-term, Ismaila Sarr could still prove to be the better option of the two. And I'd also factor in injury records as well. Eze, over the last couple of seasons, has not had the best injury record. So that's to be factored in as well. So just a little bit of chat on Sarr and Eze. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like there is a real lack of exciting attacking options in the game. So I'm not just going to say players for the sake of it. I'm going to think about players that I'd actually consider for my team. And whilst there is a lack of them, one player I do like the look of, it's just his minutes are letting him down. And to be fair, in general, I'm really not sure what Ange Postecoglou is doing with his team at the moment. He's not starting Maddison or Brennan Johnson. And in my mind, they're two of his best attackers. And you can see here in his numbers, 11 attacking returns from 19 appearances. And I'd say he's probably only started 14, 15 games this season. So that's a really good level of returns for the number of starts that he's made. And 5.5 million, I think he's a nice differential at that ownership. Would I go for him? Probably not in my team. He's a little bit too differential and a minute's risk for me to pick him. But I think with the sheer lack of good midfield options in the game at the moment, I'm thinking the likes of Palmer and Salah are probably the only two that I'd really want in my team. Looking outside of that, could be a time to go a bit different, to separate yourself from the pack. And if you can trust his minutes or believe in his minutes, Brennan Johnson could be an option for you. Chris Wood continues to score goals. He's got 11 goals and 1 assist, so a goal and assist in Game Week 19. 12 attacking returns from 19 appearances. He's got Wolves, Liverpool, fair enough. Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton after that. Even against Liverpool, right? Those are all games he could potentially do well in scoring. And if you look back on the record he's got in seasons gone by, he's done great. It's not just this season where the goals have come. Last season, the record was really good as well. So, yeah, the guy is just performing really well. And I think of all of the cheap strikers in the game right now, Chris Wood is by far and away number one. With Cunha going off with a potential injury, and I know it hasn't happened yet, but his ban is about to come as well. For me, I think Cunha is going to miss 3 to 5 games for that incident. I don't think there's any way he escapes a ban. And if that is the case, well, he's also more expensive than Chris Wood, right? He's over 7 million now, is Cunha. So whether you can call him a cheap forward, I'm not sure. But yeah, at his price point, you can't do any better than Chris Wood. And I wouldn't worry that he's massively outperforming his XG or anything like that. But he is just such an elite finisher. And he's playing to exactly the way that Forest want to play. He's a great option, 23.8% ownership. So he's not exactly a differential. But I know a lot of people won't have him in their team. And I think he's a great buy. And I would go as far to say he might be the second or third best forward in the game right now. I think I owe people an apology on Raul Jimenez as well. I remember definitely telling people on my deadline stream and videos gone by that I would consider him a sell purely because Muniz has come off the bench in the last couple of games and scored. And I really didn't expect him to start, even start in Game Week 19. And for him to score, yeah, wow. And I look at the Fulham fixtures coming up. Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester in their next 3. Can you go from wanting to sell a player to wanting to buy a player just in the space of 1 week? I'm not just reacting to the fact that he scored, I'm reacting to the fact that he started as well, which suggests that he is really ahead of Muniz in Marco Silva's thinking in terms of the starting lineups. With all the fixture congestion, etc. we've had over Christmas, for Muniz to be in the form that he's in and Raul Jimenez still to start, I think suggests something. So for me, if you held on to Raul Jimenez, absolutely fair play to you. But again, we're just thinking of just the sheer lack of good forward options in the game at the moment. Another player around his price being João Pedro, for example, who is definitely not performing at the moment. He hasn't played yet, of course, in Game Week 20, but up at the time of recording this video, he's not performing. I've gone from wanting to sell Raul Jimenez to actually suggesting he could well be a buy. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. I've got him in my team, so I'm a little bit biased, but with the way the game is going, like I said, with a sheer lack of really exciting, good attacking options looking at forwards and midfielders, I think there's space for Erling Haaland in people's teams, particularly now if you're sitting on a lot of cash in the bank. For example, you sold Saka for Bruno Fernandes, who got suspended, and you've gone for someone even cheaper. That might allow you to bring Erling Haaland in your team, particularly as well with the likes of Nottingham Forest, who wholly have cheap defenders available. You could go double Forest for around 9 million, for example. That could open the door to get Erling Haaland back into your team. And I think certainly for the next 3 fixtures, you've got to consider him to be an option, right? He's obviously just scored against Leicester. Game before that, he missed a penalty. So say, 2 goals in 2 games. I think if he scored that penalty against Everton, I think people would really be considering bringing him back into their teams. Not necessarily as a captaincy option, I'm not saying that. But I do think just with the sheer lack of good options in the game, like the premium midfielders are not really doing the business. Son's just missed a penalty. Saka's injured. Bruno Fernandes, he's suspended. There's a lot of cash going around for players. Like I said, not necessarily for captaincy, but I think just spending the extra cash, you may as well go for Haaland. And I know Man City have been poor, right? I'm not going to excuse that or try and make that up. But at some point in my mind, their form has to turn around, particularly from an attacking perspective. They're just off 2-goal win against Leicester. West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich coming up in the next 3. And then it's Chelsea and Arsenal after that. That obviously gets a bit tough. But for those next 3 fixtures, it could be a really good opportunity to hop on him and just take the points that you can while there's not many other good, exciting options available, and then get rid of him for Chelsea and Arsenal, potentially on a wild card, and then use your assistant manager chip. There could be potential double game weeks coming up at that point of time as well. So it's a good time to hop off. But I think you have to talk and consider, if you have the cash in the bank, you have to talk about Erling Haaland. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. Sorry if my voice is a little bit croaky. I've just been at the football today myself. Bristol City won 3-0 and I was chatting and screaming quite a lot. So apologies if I sound a little bit croaky. Yeah, that should be everything. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of the picks I've mentioned here. And yeah, like the video if you enjoyed it, and you can subscribe if you haven't already to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video.